Good evening, everyone. Happy Christmas, happy holidays, whatever it is you celebrate. Apologies for the lateness. I thought I'd go and fix myself a drink, so I'm having a very, very Christmassy drink right now. So cheers, everyone. Mustache, yeah. Oh, that's definitely a Guinness. It's been a while. How are we all doing? We've got people in the comments already. We've got bath time. Merry Christmas. I'm so stuffed with food, I might as well be a pinata. I still haven't had my Christmas dinner yet. I'm going to have that right after we've done the live stream. I've just paused Oppenheimer halfway through. I was on Netflix and I was like, I want something to watch. And it goes off Netflix on the 11th of January. I actually haven't seen Oppenheimer since it came out in the cinema. And I thought, yeah, you know what? I could do with a 3-hour epic. So let's go back to a Christopher Nolan movie. Really enjoying it, actually, on a second watch. I enjoyed it the first time I watched it, but it's good to go back again. By the way, bath time. I have, after almost a year, apologies for that again, I have sent you an email back, by the way. So if you get a chance, just check your emails. And let's lock a date in for January if that's still possible. So yeah, I've responded to you on there. So go and check it out. We got Carl. Merry Christmas, bath time. Must admit, feeling the same. Always room for dessert though. What have we gone for? Have we all gone for turkey this year? What have we had on our dinners? What are we going for pudding? I'm a huge foodie, so let me know what you guys are having. Let's see. Do you remember Nobby the Tramp? Nobby the Tramp, I can't say I do. Carl says, Merry Christmas, Chris, and thanks for putting the stream on. No, you're welcome. I don't know how long I'm going to go live on this thing. It's just going to be shooting the shit, having a chat with you guys. I am going to unveil some stuff from the Hobbit edit that I'm working on as well. Just a bit of an update, really. Because it's nice having some time off work. So I've got 2 whole weeks off work. This is the first time off work I've had in... well, since last Christmas. The nature of my job, it's pretty much all the way straight through. We get 2 weeks off at Christmas, so it's been nice just doing nothing, you know. Well, I've still been doing music practice. That's, you know, 24/7 with that shit, but I've actually been spending some time reading. I've been reading through the history of the Hobbit at the moment, which is very academic and incredibly wordy. You're constantly flicking back to like author's notes and stuff like that, and then jumping back to the page you were at. But it's been really fascinating. I've been reading about the I'm currently on the first iteration of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit, and how names were changed and how he had more real world place names in there, like you mentioned, the Shetland Islands and the Gobi Desert and China, and it was, yeah, it's all very, very interesting. So I've been going through that. And I've been editing. I've been going back to work on the Hobbit edit. So I've been pulled in millions of directions, really. If we get more people in or whatnot, I'll probably talk more about that edit itself. But part of me is thinking, do I just update the edit that I did before? Because I don't want to speak for everyone. Most people seem to quite enjoy what I did with that. And do I just update that so, you know, I maintain the integrity of that edit? Or do I use this opportunity to strip it back somewhat and cut it down some more? I've kind of been pulled between pillar and post with that, really. So I've just been trying to lock in of what I want to pursue with it, really. But I have got some video footage that I can show you that I've been working on, which I'll bring up shortly. Carl says, get anything nice for Christmas? Yeah, I got a few things. So keeping it in theme with the channel, actually, my cousin recently got back from a trip to Japan. And she asked me when she was out there, she said, like, hey, Christmas is coming up. Is there any anime that you're interested in? That's not the person to ask, because I don't really watch anime, but I was going through the Studio Ghibli movies, and I said, well, anything Ghibli related? She says, any specific characters or movies or whatnot? And I said, well, Totoro's sort of the mascot of the company, so anything Totoro related would be pretty cool. Or I said, or Princess Mononoke. So she went with the Totoro option. And she got me this thing, which is, I've never seen any of these before. I don't know if they do these in this country. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, and you stack it up layer by layer until you have a Totoro, which I do have built. It's in my window, so give me a second. Yeah, it was an absolute bitch to put together, though. I mean, maybe I'm just getting dumb in my old age, but there he is, cute little Totoro. Yeah, the eyes, getting those in at the end was a bloody nightmare. But yeah, it's a cute little sort of mantelpiece thing. It's quite nice to have because it sort of commemorates the Studio Ghibli retrospective that me and Dale did. And then she also got me these. I haven't opened these yet, though. I almost kind of want to just keep them in the packet, but they're these really, really nice Totoro playing cards. And some of the designs there on the back from screenshots from the movie. So yeah, really, really thoughtful of her. Nice to get me those. I got some Lord of the Rings PJs because, you know, you're never too old to be a complete and utter geek. So I got some of them. And what did I treat myself to? I treated myself to the Animaniacs complete box set, which I got about a week or so ago. And also this. This now completes my Tarantino collection. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's one of my favorite films of Tarantino, and for whatever reason, I didn't own it. And every time I looked at my DVD shelf with all of my Tarantino films, it really annoyed me that I was missing that last one. So now with that, if I do some creative shuffling around with stuff, I now have all the Tarantino movies. So if me and Dale do a Tarantino retrospective at some point, I am set. And there they all are. So it's nice to get that one at the end there. And it's one of my favorite Tarantino films out of his entire filmography as well. So yeah, that's pretty much all the stuff I got, really. Got some smellies, got, you know, aftershave, moisturizer, very, very important now. I'll be turning 33 towards the back end of January. So I've got to try and take care of whatever's left of this. So I'll be moving towards my 40s with moisturized face and youthful complexion, hopefully. How about you guys? What did you get? Anything cool? Anything film related? What stuff did you get? That time says a year later. Almost a year. Not quite. 4 months shy, but yeah, apologies for taking ages to get back to you, but now that things have slowed down a little bit over Christmas, as I say, I've got 2 weeks off. I've still got to practice, but I haven't got to like break my neck over trying to get everything practiced throughout the week. Not having a social life, and the fact that Studio Ghibli's finished, and Dale is taking a bit of a backseat in January. We both had this discussion that we want to have a little bit of a break. That's not to say that there's going to be no content throughout all of January. There absolutely is. I'll be on videos and stuff like that. But Dale just wanted a little bit of a breather because we pretty much have been non-stop since we did like the Disney retrospective, I think, in 2023. So yeah, let's see. Bath Time says, does it have anything about the guy Bilbo is based on and his trip to Iceland? I've always wanted to know about that guy. I haven't heard about that. Oh, speaking of The Hobbit, another thing I've treated myself to, I guess this could be like a late Christmas present to myself or an early birthday present, but there's a Hobbit graphic novel, which I think recently this year has had like a revised and updated edition. I have known about this for a while, but for whatever reason, I never owned it in my collection. I didn't know if it was meant to be any good or not. And then it's resurfaced recently because it has had this revised edition from 2025. And I've heard really great things about it. So I'm going to give it a go. So I've got it on order. It's this nice hardback edition. And I'm really looking forward to adding that to my collection as well. Let's see. Carl says, 2026 resolution, Chris. Your trip to New Zealand. Oh, maybe not for 2026. Go on your own adventure. Remember, the first step is always the hardest. You're so right, Carl. You're so right. It won't be 2026. It won't be. There's a guided tour, which I've seen. I think it's called Red Carpet Tours. Now, in all honesty, I haven't shopped around for any other tour companies or anything like that. But from a quick look, it looks like Red Tour. What is it, like Red Tour something or other company? Red Carpet Tour, sorry. They look like they're the best. But when you go to book it, you can see on the calendar, it's like all of 2026 is booked and 2027 and probably at this point, 2028 as well. So, and just money. It's so much money. And it's not like you can do a payment plan. It's just such a huge fell swoop of cash. You know, thousands and thousands and thousands we're talking about here. I'm going to take myself on a couple of hikes, though, over these 2 weeks, because for 2025, I haven't gone anywhere. I haven't done any hikes. I haven't gone on holiday. I haven't gone on a weekend away anywhere. I have just been working gymming and streaming. That's and practicing. That's been my life for a year. So I definitely want to get out and see somewhere. I still need to clock some miles on my walking challenge, which has pretty much just been on hiatus for the best part of a year because I haven't logged any miles. I've been walking around and stuff, but I like to log my miles from hikes that I go on, and because I haven't gone anywhere, yeah, my progress, my little Tom Bombadil mascot on the map has just stopped. And I'm just past Karis Galathon, so I need to get my skates on a little bit, because I think if it comes up to August this year, it'll have been 2 years since I started my medal, and if you don't finish it in time, I think they do just completely scrub it off. So I really need to get the miles in and get it done. But you're right, I do need to start going more places or saving towards a holiday. I do need to save money a little bit better in 2026, I think. So yeah, it won't be New Zealand in 2026. I can definitely say that, but hopefully maybe 2027, 2028. I want to get there before I turn 40. Now, I'll be turning 33 in January, so I've still got a few years ahead of me. Touch wood, hopefully. Health checkups. That's what I'm going to be doing in January. I'm not a hypochondriac by any stretch of the imagination, but it did kind of dawn on me that, you know, I still consider myself relatively young. Maybe. Maybe not as much now, but with turning 33, I want to make sure that my health's all in check. So I think I'm just going to get, you know, like blood tests and stuff like that, just to see if I'm deficient in anything, everything's A-okay. Just for my own peace of mind, really. So that's probably my New Year's resolution in terms of January, to get that done straight away. And yeah, just keep my practice going, keeping the channel going. I do want to push in some new directions, and depending on how long this live stream goes on for, I'll probably discuss some ideas of what I've got planned for the channel, new series and retrospectives and things like that, and possible ways to shake it up a little bit on the channel. Not that I think that things are getting stagnant, but I've been looking at view counts and stuff, and you know, we do have the very loyal fan base here and the viewership, but you know, Carl, Bath Time, Kurt the Gamer and whatnot. So but it would be nice to expand it out, maybe get a few more views on the videos and get them out there a little bit more. So we can talk about that too. Bath Time says, I always think the Hateful Eight and Jackie Brown get lost in the Tarantino catalog. They're probably my favorites. I do need to give Hateful Eight another watch, and I've never actually watched the extended edition. I don't even know if it's still on Netflix, but I know that they had an extended edition, and it was sort of broken up into almost like TV episodes. I don't know why they did it like that. And I think that was why I was resistant to watching it like that, because I was like, this isn't a TV show, this is a film. But I haven't seen the extended edition, so next time I watch it, I'll definitely try and track that down if I can. Jackie Brown, it wouldn't be in my top 3. When I first watched it, I really disliked it. But I've tried to watch that film. Not that I'm trying to make myself like it, you know, sort of like a weird Stockholm syndrome with it. But I think I've done about 3 or 4 viewings of it now. And the last time I watched it was a Tarantino season at Odeon, and watching it on the big screen, the guy next to me started a conversation with me. We're talking about Tarantino in the movie, and he loved it. It was his favorite Tarantino movie. So maybe I soaked up on some of that energy, but I really did appreciate the film a lot more and had a pretty good time with it. I do stand by the fact that I think that, oh God, what's his name? Robert De Niro is very miscast in that movie. I think it probably should have gone to someone else. I thought he was a little bit wasted in that. I don't think he really suited that role or that character. But yeah, it's a good film. And once again, Tarantino, it's a great soundtrack. Carl says, from watching some of Bath Time streams, I actually think you guys will work off each other really well. Yeah, I've checked out one of his football streams before. Now, I'm not a football guy, so a lot of it was straight over my head. But I mean, Bath Time has been around here for ages. I have like a good vibe about people just from the way that they, you know, the way that they communicate and type and everything. And yeah, I think me and Bath Time will be completely on the level. So yeah, and I've seen him on the live stream, so it'll be absolutely fine. So yeah, finally we'll lock a date in for it. He's come up with some great video ideas as well. Video ideas which I would have never even have thought of doing. And yeah, if it all goes well, hopefully he likes collaborating with me. If he does, then he's got a whole host of video ideas which we can go through, which hopefully you guys will enjoy as well. Kurt the Gamer says, I used to read the Hobbit graphic novel from my school library. I bought a copy a few years ago. Oh, that's awesome. And Kurt the Gamer says, did you read the Hobbit facsimile yet? I haven't. I have taken it out the wrapper, though. It's on my shelf, so it's here. It's all good to go. Haven't read through this yet, in a way, but I am reading the history of the Hobbit, and it's going through every single iteration. So I'm going on the version that predates the facsimile. This was sort of like the first published, released edition of the book. But I'm going from when he was writing, handwriting on manuscripts, where Smaug was called Prifton, Gandalf was called Bloodorthin, and Thorin was called Gandalf, and it's all very strange and weird. But the core of the story's there, but it's interesting to see how some of the ideas changed. But once I've got through that, it's always going to be there. I do really want to read that and just see how it compares to the newer version. Carl says, I got the Star Wars logo and Game Boy... Wait, I got the Star Wars logo and Game Boy Lego sets. Oh, wait, they've actually done the Star Wars logo in Lego? I didn't know that. That's really cool. Speaking of Lego, Carl, have you seen they're doing a Lego Minas Tirith next year, which is meant to be... I don't think it's the biggest set with like the most amount of pieces, but I think it's in like the top 5. I think there's like over 8,000 pieces, and it's Minas Tirith. So if Rivendell's anything to go by, which I think was about 6,000 pieces, this is going to be a lot more. And if only I had the space, if only I had the storage space for it and the funds, because when you get to those big Lego sets, you're dropping like 600, 700, 800 quid sometimes. So I don't know how much Lego Minas Tirith is going to be, but I imagine it's going to be quite a bit, to be honest. Bathtime says, I bought myself Resident Evil 4. Original or remake? Because the remake's actually really good. I'm not much of a gamer myself, but I do watch Let's Plays, and I've watched Let's Plays of all the Resident Evil games, and 4 looked like it was really good. Resident Evil 2 remake was really, really well done, I think. And I feel like they dropped the ball a little bit with Resident Evil 3 remake. That almost felt like... Was it meant to be DLC for the Resident Evil 2 remake? It felt very rushed. It felt like they were chasing after it, like, oh, Resident Evil 2 remake sold really well, so let's get 3 out now. And it felt not as refined. The game mechanics didn't feel like they were quite there. But no, I think they really pulled it together for Resident Evil 4. Which is the one where Chris is like punching boulders? Is that 5? No, 5's the one that's set in Africa, isn't it? Is the one where he's like this roided up superhero and he's doing superhuman shit. He's like drop kicking stuff. He's punching boulders at Wesker in a volcano. Is that... I feel like that's 6, isn't it? Is that Resident Evil 6? But we've got 9 coming out in February, I want to say. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that. So yeah, we'll see what happens with it. Bathtime says, Hateful Eight is the closest concept I've seen to The Thing. I really like it. Well, and the music itself, Ennio Morricone, and I think a lot of the tracks from that are unreleased tracks from John Carpenter's The Thing. I do think it was a bit of a missed opportunity that Tarantino shot in, I can never remember millimeters of film, but like widescreen, like old school widescreen cinema, right, for the big epics. And the whole thing is shot in this very, very dark, dingy wooden cabin. I don't think he really utilized that widescreen format to the most of its capabilities. It felt very claustrophobic, and you don't really want to be filming stuff like that on this huge expansive thing where, I don't know if Lawrence of Arabia or shit like that was filmed on this, where you have these huge expansive landscapes and you really make the most of that format. And there was a few shots at the beginning where you've got Kurt Russell in the horse-drawn cart going through the snow, and that looked really picturesque and whatnot. But the rest of it, as I say, I think I'm going to need to go back to it. And maybe the extended edition, I'm not sure how much the extended edition adds into it, but it'll be interesting to see how it compares. Bathtime says he bought the remake. The original was one of my favorite games ever. Yeah, it's really good. I think my favorite would have to be Resident Evil 2. I love the music in that, and I just love the feel to it. And I think the remake to 2 was really, really, really good. Close second would be 4. Then we get into like the newer stuff. 3 and 1 are fine for what they are, but it's 2. It's the even number ones, 2 and 4. 5 and 6, I think I've only watched once, but they did get a little bit ridiculous, didn't they? And then the newer era, there's bits I like about 7 and 8, but I didn't like the whole first-person style to it at all. I thought the character was really, really boring. And it didn't feel like true Resident Evil to me. I think had they have gone for because all the marketing campaign was Lady Dimitrescu, wasn't it, for 8? Quite rightly so. I understand why, and it got a lot of people very, very excited for that game. But then Lady Dimitrescu is like the first area of the game. She's the first boss you fight, and then that's it. And then you jump around loads of different bosses and different areas. It felt very unfocused. I kind of wish they'd have just gone for the whole setting is Lady Dimitrescu's castle mansion, and she could have been sort of like the Mr. X character that chases you around. Like I would have been fine with that, with the character that pursues you. But I'm hoping with 9, because it looks like it's returned to form. It's back to third person. I think we've got 2 characters now that it's moving between. So yeah, I'm excited for 9. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it. Carl says Resident Evil 4 remake is amazing. The shooting gallery will drive you nuts though. Bath time. Oh yeah, I've seen that on Let's Plays. I wouldn't have the patience for that now, unfortunately. Bath time. I'm pretty excited, to be honest. I've played through Iron Games for like 3 years with Baldur's Gate 3. It's amazing that Baldur's Gate came back, because I remember playing Baldur's Gate 2 on, I want to say, PS2. My uncle was a big gamer. He bought loads of games, and he'd be the person, like, you know, I'd stop over at his place and we'd play games and stuff like that. And I remember playing Baldur's Gate 2. That was years ago. And then very, very recently, Baldur's Gate 3's come out, and I'm like, did it have a big enough audience to justify a sequel after all these years? Apparently so, because I think it sold very well, and I've heard a lot of people talking positively about it. So Bath Time says, whilst film and TV is pretty shit at the moment, in the last 5 years, apparently every genre of video game has had a legitimate masterpiece dropped. Yeah, I haven't really been watching what's happening with video games. I used to watch E3 every year, and then I know they put the kibosh on that. So I don't really stay in tune with what's coming out. I still only own a PS4. I haven't bought a next-gen console yet because, well, I don't really find the time to game anymore. I've got so many games saved on my system that I haven't gone through. I've got the whole Kingdom Hearts franchise. Red Dead Redemption 2 I was really enjoying, and then I got sidetracked by all of the side quests and just how enormous that game is. Got a little bit overwhelmed with it, and then I've completely forgotten the story by this point. So I need to go back to that and play through that. God of War Ragnarok, I completed the story, but I didn't do all the side quests, and I still haven't played that new piece of story DLC that came out where it goes back to the Greek mythology stuff. So it kills me that there's more God of War content that I still haven't played or experienced, because I've played every other one of those games and I love them immensely. So there just needs to be more hours in the day. There really does. And even though I've got 2 weeks off now, that's all being devoted to editing. That's sort of like the main thing I'm focusing on. And obviously I've got to keep my piano practice, my guitar practice going too. So yeah, songs to learn for gigging as well. We haven't got any gigs lined up yet, but I've been doing a couple of band practices here and there with an Iron Maiden. There you go, Iron Maiden tribute band. So just getting songs learned for that. That's been really good fun, actually. I've never really done much gigging. I've done a couple of gigs in the past, but yeah, been enjoying that. And Iron Maiden's just great music, isn't it? So it's fun to play. Carl says, I'm currently playing RoboCop Rogue City. I've heard that's really good, actually. And that does a great job of making you feel like RoboCop. Hell yeah. Love me some RoboCop. Baldur's Gate 2 was like 2001 or something. Yeah, I was going to say it's been a long, long while. Baldur's Gate 3 in 2023 sold like 25 million copies. Fuck me. It's one of the best games ever made. That's what I mean. Is it the same company? Did Baldur's Gate change hands? I don't know why a game that... I don't even remember people making a big fuss about Baldur's Gate 2. Maybe they did, but, you know, back in 2001, Christ, I was a young'un back then. Had the whole world ahead of me. What happened? I'd have been 8 years old. Christ almighty. But I remember we never even played it that much, me and my uncle. I remember the title and just sort of dicking around at the beginning of the game. But yeah, over 20 years to release the sequel, and well, yeah, 25 million copies. You can't sniff at that, can you? JX says, Happy Life Day, everyone. Happy Life Day, my good man. Bathsime says, I wasn't as enamored by the new God of War as everyone else because I was a massive fan of Kratos shouting Zeus and being a one-dimensional psycho. It's definitely a shake-up. I don't mind that they've tried to give the character, well, give him some more character. They haven't really explained how they've taken him into a new realm, though. They've never really explained that. The guy stabbed himself at the end of God of War 3. We see his body has disappeared at the post-credit scene, and then all of a sudden he's in a completely different time period, different region, different location, and there's not really much explanation as to how he got there. I don't know if they've released a comic book or some supplementary material or something like that. If they have, I haven't checked that out. So I do prefer the older God of War games, just in terms of the gameplay, the hack and slash style. I'm a big hack and slash video game fan anyway, so I always gravitated towards that. The boss battles were truly epic and cinematic, and especially in God of War 3, well, even in God of War 2 to some extent as well. And I feel like that's been lost, especially on God of War. They keeps calling it God of War 2018, God of War 4, technically the first Norse mythology one. And all the bosses are just sort of ogres, just bog standard. When you play, was it Arkham? Well, Arkham Knight didn't have any bosses, did it? Arkham Asylum, and how most of the bosses in that game are like the Titan bosses, and they're all just exactly the same. They might have like a slightly different skin. That was God of War 2018 for me. And I was like, how do you go from a series of games that prides itself on just a sheer wealth of boss fights, really varied as well and fun, and you just kind of remove all of those? There was a few. You had like the boulder fight, you fight the dragon as well, don't you, in that first one, but none of them really came close. I thought Ragnarok was definitely a lot better in that regard, but my problems with Ragnarok, I still really enjoyed it. I still had a great time playing that game, but it felt like it should have been a trilogy. Just the necessity of storytelling, I feel like it would have been better served as a trilogy, and the only reason that they didn't do one is because they got impatient and they wanted to move on to different locations. I know that Egypt's been heavily rumored for the next one. I was like, well, don't rush the story, pace it out. It felt like they tried to cram everything, 2 stories worth, a middle chapter and a closing chapter, all into one game. And because of that, you didn't have the natural through line. Odin was introduced very quickly and then dispatched with at the end of the game. And I felt like you could have paced that out over 2 games. Exactly like Zeus, right? He helps you out in the first game. He's introduced as an antagonist in the second game. And then you have your final confrontation with him. Star Wars, you fight Vader in Empire, and then you have your final confrontation with him in Return of the Jedi. It's just kind of the way that stories like that are done over a trilogy. But we got 2 games out of it, so yeah, it is what it is. Let's see. JX says cheesecake is setting in the fridge. Very nice. What flavor is it? You've just gone for a plain cheesecake? What flavor is that? That time says this is referring to Baldur's Gate. It changed hands. Spent 14 years trying to get the rights. Wow. Okay. That's a long time. I've got some Baldur's Gate fans as well. Yeah, JX says Baldur's Gate 2 is still looked on favorably. It's just horrifically outdated. It was one of those games that released its tools, which definitely stretched its lifespan. Oh, okay. Math Time says, as a long-time D&D player, I'm absolutely convinced a lot of its success is down to how boring the universe is. So people just invent new ones to play in. You ain't wrong there. I've always wanted to try D&D. Always have. My old workplace, a couple of my colleagues there were big into it. And I just never seem to have the free time to head there. And to be honest, I think I'd hold back on getting immersed in a character. You know how some people dress up and put on a voice and play act and stuff like that. And that's fine. It's a great sense of escapism. I completely understand why people do it. And it does look like a lot of fun. I am not that theatrically minded. So I could be having a great time, but I'm not putting on a voice. I'm not doing a character or anything like that. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd bring everyone's vibe down a little bit with that. Not that I'd be a miserable asshole or anything like that, but you know what I mean. Let's see. Carl says, I managed to get all of the achievements in Terminator 2 No Fate, and that's in the style of an old school side-scrolling run and gun. Really enjoyed it. Those were some of my favorite games. Are you talking about the side-scrolling, like Sega days? Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, stuff like that. I used to love games like that. Or even the really, really old Star Wars games now. Do you remember like the hard as balls Return of the Jedi game, the side scroller? That was really fun to play. Let's see. Any other comments? You guys are having a conversation with yourselves. I'm going to skip past those ones. Yeah, Jake says, if I'm talking in character and the character has a voice, I do a voice. That said, there are times I can't be asked and no one complains. They get it. Yeah, that's the main thing. That's the main thing. JX has been trying to talk me into this. He mentioned he's found a recipe for, was it elven mead? Was it elven honey wine or something like that? And he's trying to get me to brew something. I've never brewed anything in my life. My dad used to back in the day. But I don't know anything about that. I'd just fuck it up. I'd probably poison myself with it, to be honest. So I'll leave that to JX and everyone else. But yeah. I'm going to share some stuff that I've been doing on the Hobbit edit with you. Very, very short video. I'm talking just like a handful of seconds here. So AI. Here's a conversation topic, actually. AI. Are we cool with AI? Do we hate it? Do we wish it would go away? Unfortunately, it's here to stay, I'm afraid. So me and JX have been experimenting with some AI stuff. And JX, once again, teaching me how to use all these softwares and websites and whatnot. He definitely does teach a man how to fish. So I do appreciate that. And yeah, I wanted to take this opportunity to experiment with some of these websites and softwares and whatnot and see what could be added, if anything, to a Hobbit edit and whether it would look good. And that's the main thing. If people hate it and think this looks like absolute shit, then I won't add it into my edit. But it is proving very useful to use sparingly and to create a couple of little insert shots here and there for a project. This is a little bit more of an ambitious one. This is like an entire sequence. So the sequence in question is the chapter in the Hobbit book that's called Not at Home, and it's where after Smaug breaks out of the mountain and flies off to go burn Lake Town, the book stays with the dwarves in the mountain. They get sealed in the mountain. Smaug trashes the mountain and it causes a cave-in, and the dwarves have to rush inside, and they're trapped in the dark, and they don't know if Smaug's going to come back. It's really, really suspenseful for a whole chapter because we, like the dwarves, are completely clueless as to whether Smaug's coming back. Now, I don't think that works for a movie. I think just in terms of pacing and everything like that, if Smaug breaks out of that mountain to go and burn Lake Town, you need to continue that. And narratively, it's complicated because the chapter Fire and Water and Not at Home happen sequentially, and there's a lot of overlap there. So I don't think you can really jump back and forth, in time in a Lord of the Rings film. You can't just go, oh, well, now we're going to flash back periodically to like a day ago. I think that would just be weird. So it's going to have to be intercut. But this is something that I've been working on. So the sequence you're about to see takes place right after Smaug breaks out of the mountain. You have Balin, who delivers the line, that my lad was a dragon. And then the rest of what you'll see is all AI. Some of it's a little bit imperfect, but I think it can be refined. So here we go. It's 26 seconds. I'm just going to click play. It's widescreen, so you're probably going to see me at the top and the bottom of the screen. But let me know what you think. This is sort of a proof of concept, I guess. Hopefully you don't get taken down due to copyright. So this is AI onwards, right? From this point onwards. There'll be voice over there. There's no voice. There's no sound effects to this just yet. There we go. So that's a little glimpse as to what I've been working on. Yeah, there's no sound to it yet. I'm just getting all the footage in there, and when I get it picture locked, then I'll add all the sound effects to it. So yeah, I think some of those shots I might redo just to do another pass of them, because some of them might be quite AI. But I'm actually really impressed with how it's looking, actually. And by the week, it seems like AI is just getting better and better and better. There's a new update on it now where you can type a script for a character to say, and the mouth movement is perfect. That can be AI is very hit and miss at the moment, but it is getting better, and the capabilities are, we've heard. I don't know if you guys have seen like any like 80s covers or stuff, or songs that are redone with AI to a different style. It could be like a reggae version of Smells Like Teen Spirit or something like that, and it's getting pretty good now, actually. If there's one that I'd recommend, It's Robbie Williams's Angels done in like an 80s AOR ballad style. Think like Richard Marx or Bryan Adams or something like that. And I was going to say it's an insane cover. It's AI, it's a robot, but it's fucking great. So yeah, I think it's just going to keep getting better and better. So if I can get a sequence like this done and it can look decent, then I probably will integrate that into my edit, because there is some discrepancy with the characters sort of teleporting, and the span of time is really condensed and it doesn't really make much sense. Characters will just teleport from the side of the mountain by the secret door, and then all of a sudden they're stood on Ravenhill overlooking Smaug burning the town. And it's like, that's like a 5-hour trek. How have you got from there to there? It doesn't make any sense. So if I can get this sequence in there, then that probably will be added to the edit just to facilitate the change. And then I haven't got another sequence just yet, but if that goes well, then I am planning to try and do one of Beorn the bear being the one to kill the Orc general. And I don't know if I'm going to keep that in the movie, because I think for the sake of the movie, Thorin, sort of like one of the main antagonists, killing the one of the main protagonists, taking out the Orc bad guy, probably makes more sense for a film. It's a little bit more personal. It's a little bit more, dare I say, like classic Hollywood. Having a side character who we only see for about 10 minutes show up at the very end to dispatch the villain could be viewed as anticlimactic. Tolkien played with those structures, though, didn't he? It was very steeped in classic mythology. So, but if I can get an AI sequence of a bear fucking up an orc, then I want to see it. And JX has done a few test shots as well, and it's looking pretty good. I must admit that it's very satisfying to watch. Like, you've had a sequence or a shot in your head for ages that can't be made. The Hobbit films are made, and it can't be made. It's done. It was made, over 10 years ago now. But you can sort of augment it a little bit with AI to get something like what's in your head. It's really satisfying to see. So what I'm saying is I'm all for AI at this moment. Now, it does have some very damning ramifications, I think. I think people, like session musicians is definitely an issue. I think companies will just go, oh, we'll just get AI to make us a little tune. We won't have to pay or outsource musicians to come in and write us something. Concept artists potentially as well, stuff like that. There is like a darker side to AI, which I acknowledge, but in terms of just like a casual fan editing projects and things like that, I think I'm really excited. And it's all just happened within like a couple of years. It's like, here you go, have AI, have fun. So yeah. Battime says, have you ever seen the AI Lord of the Rings music videos? The one about one funk to rule them all is amazing. I think I have, actually. I think JX may have sent me that one. I think I've seen something similar to what you're talking about. Carl says, what's your take on these AI fan films? Seen some great Star Wars ones. I think they're really fun. And I think there's that whole... Red Letter Media did a really good video, actually, on AI. And, Jay from Red Letter Media is very like, oh, it's not creative because you're not creating anything. You're just typing in commands. And I'm like, well, you could still have a vision in your head and keep hitting regenerate until you get something. You can put real funds into AI, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I've got like a direct debit thing at the moment. You get so many credits to use, which is why this Hobbit update is taking so long. Because if you burn through all of your credits, then you either sink more money into it, which is essentially like gambling at that point, or you have to wait until the next month when your credits are replenished. But I think you can still, you've still got to edit it all together. You've got to compile it all together and get all the voiceover for it, whether that's AI generated as well, or whether you get a voice actor in there and the music. So there is a level of creativity to it. And I think if it's a way to get some of these stories out there, or classic scenes from some of the Star Wars expanded universe that we kind of get to see in, I say live action, I know it's AI, but you know what I mean? Like, they're never going to get made as films. Disney are never going to make anything from the Thrawn trilogy. Disney are never going to make anything from, the Darth Plagueis novel or things like that. But fans are now taking that into their own hands. And I think it's nice. I think I think it's the equivalent of when Star Wars fans make these short films where they're playing with lightsabers in a forest. It's still creative. They're still making a project that they're an IP that they're passionate about. And I think most Star Wars fans just need stuff like that at the moment. It's just it's nice, you know. It's nice that they're doing it. So yeah. Let's see. JX says there's an AI cover of Ocean Man sung by the cast of SpongeBob. It makes me really want to do a full edit of the movie. Battime says George Lucas would lose his mind if he had AI when he was making the special editions. I assume he doesn't have the rights anymore to mess about with the trilogy. Oh, no, God, no. He signed that off long ago, didn't he? Also, if we heard that potentially for the 50th anniversary, 50 years, Jesus Christ, the 50th anniversary of A New Hope is... no, it's in 2 years' time, isn't it? How they've advertised it, it's almost like they were talking about it was going to be next year. They're talking about re-releasing the original theatrical version. Now, I don't know if that's just in movie theaters, but if it goes to movie theaters, chances are, fingers crossed, I know they keep promising us this, we might get a Blu-ray release of it. People probably already have the despecialized editions anyway, so... But it will be nice to get like a cleaned up version, I guess, of the original unchanged version. So, yeah. And that's one of my biggest criticisms, is that they're just not readily available to get. You know, they've just sort of been wiped out. And the one that's on Disney Plus, the one that's on Blu-ray or 4K or whatever, is that most recent updated version with McClunky, which I've come to appreciate. So, yeah. Let's see. Bath time. I think you're right. Yeah, the legalities of everything. Luckily, we're not there yet, but I am waiting for the time. And I think there are some things as well, JX. I know you've mentioned some Star Wars things. They sort of veto you from creating an AI shot of it. You could load a character like Han Solo into the mix, and you say, "Have Han Solo do this," and it's like, "Nah, we're not going to let you do it because you've used the name Han Solo, and that's, you know, like an intellectual property." Then you mentioned like you can't have Spider-Man written in there, or you can't have people say Spider-Man because, again, it's an intellectual property. So I think when it takes off and more people start doing it, and more people are doing it now, so yeah, I think we're going to get that too. I'm going to show one more AI video that I've been doing for the project as well. Now, I have showed this one quite a while back, but this is something that I'm definitely going to add into the project. And it's the moment where Gandalf talks about acquiring the key to Erebor in the map. So in the final movie, he pulls out the key, and Thorin asks him, "How came you by this?" And he just says, "It was given to me by your father, by Thrain, for safekeeping. It is yours now." And he hands it over. And that works perfectly in a very, very streamlined narrative that is The Hobbit. But even the book goes into detail about how Gandalf acquired that key, and it does set up the Necromancer all the way back at, you know, that beginning scene in Bag End. The reason that I didn't add that into my project originally was because I thought it was too dark and too serious and too foreboding, talking about the Necromancer and Sauron and stuff at the early stages of the adventure. I wanted this sort of ramp to the film where it starts off very whimsical and childlike. We pepper a few Lord of the Rings things in there, and then eventually it ramps up and leads us directly into the Lord of the Rings. That was my intention for the Hobbit project that I did. And I just felt like introducing Sauron at that early point, especially because Sauron doesn't really have a direct relation to the story, only in a very narrow way, in that the orcs are kind of allied with him, and it's sort of Sauron's grand master plan to conquer the world. But he's very much on the sidelines, which is why most projects just completely cut out the whole Necromancer subplot, which I completely understand why people do that. But again, with AI now, we can add this in, and I think it would be cool to introduce the Necromancer quite early on, because then when we get to the White Council scene, we already have an idea of what the Necromancer is, and he has been introduced. And it's this shot here. So it's Thrain passing the key over to Gandalf. Now, obviously, that is not the key to Erebor there. That was just a key that AI decided to generate. So there would have to be some level of editing here and taking that final frame and photoshopping the actual key to Erebor in his hand and running it through a few more times. But it's definitely there. And that's so I think the two sequences I'm going to focus on mostly are going to be this Thrain scene, which will be added into the project, and also the one that I showed earlier of Smaug bombarding the mountain. I'll show it again, why not? And the dwarves rushing inside. and fleshing out that sequence a little bit more. If that all goes well, I'd quite like to add the Beorn scene of, you know, the bear taking down the orc commander at the end. But as I say, I think for a film, I feel like Thorin being the one to do that probably works better for a film, even if it is against the overall lore. So we'll see what happens, but stuff is happening. I know it's been a while since I last did an update on the edit, but I am working on it. So these things take time. Especially in adult life, they really do take time now. Let's see. Let's see. Anything else? Bath Time says that key shot isn't as good as the others, to be honest. You can see it shifting about. Yeah, the background's not refined. That was a really old one that I did, actually. So if I ran it through again now, chances are it's probably a little bit more refined. They keep doing updated versions of the AI site that I use where they make it a little bit smoother and, yeah, a little bit more refined. So that's more of a proof of concept as to what I'm going for, more than a final shot. Bath Time says, for the dragon fire shot, why did you pick a close-up of the motion? Sorry, for the dragon fire shot, why did you pick a close-up of the mountain rather than a wide shot of the dragon doing it? Interesting question. JX, you can probably help out with this one because you probably know more about the AI capabilities than I do. You have to take, well, for the best results, you have to take a still shot from the movie, an existing shot. You can have AI create a shot from whole cloth. So I could just type in a command and say, huge fire breathing wyvern attacks mountain and breathes fire at it, which causes boulders and rocks to fall from the summit. I could type something like that. You have to get like insanely detailed. But the thing is, I could type in, you know, dragon attacks mountain, and it could create a dragon with massive horns on its head. It could create a dragon with 6 wings, with 10 toes, you know, whatever. It could be like a giant purple dragon, whatever. It's going to be random, just by necessity, by design of AI. It's going to be random every single time. So there's no way to track any kind of continuity that way. The only way you can do that is to provide it with an image and say, right, I want you to augment this image. Now, could I maybe take a shot of Erebor, like a more wider shot, and then Photoshop an image of Smaug into it and create that as a new still? I could maybe do that. I'm not great on Photoshop, but I could potentially do that. So the initial still shot of Smaug that I've taken from is from the extended edition of Battle of the Five Armies, and it's where Bard is running on the rooftops and Smaug's flying in the air, and he locates him and he looks at him, and I've taken that screenshot, and then I've taken that and gone, have fire-breathing wyvern fly directly into the camera and breathe fire at the camera, or something like that, which gives us the shot that we've seen. It's just a more effective way of tracking continuity, so that characters look correct, they're wearing the, you know, proper clothing and things like that, rather than just auto-generating pretty much anything. Bath Time says it's about AI rather than artistic. You could think about looking at Game of Thrones, Reign of Fire, etc. I could, and me and JX actually had this discussion, didn't we, about sort of the good old days of fan editing, where if you wanted a shot, a particular scene or whatever was in your mind, you'd have to look at other films. And indeed, I did this for my other edit of The Hobbit, where I did take scenes from other films. I used a shot from, what was that dog movie called? Was it Call of the Wild? The Harrison Ford CGI dog movie from a bunch of years ago now. I took some scenes from that. Did I take? Oh, Ironclad. the infamous scene that only me and JX liked in that project, and everyone else who watched my edit fucking hated. So yeah, I did take scenes from other films. But now with AI, you can just go, right, I'm just going to create a new shot that I want. And yeah, it is artificial, and I know a lot of people don't like AI, which is why I wanted to do a test run on this update to see what people think of the AI shots. And if people go, well, it looks really fucking bad, it's noticeably AI, it's terrible, don't do this, then I probably will just keep it to the shots that are within the actual films to work with and the parameters of that. But I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. And I know there's no sound to it yet. I think when I start to build up the soundtrack to it, and you've got the music and you've got all the sound effects and the fire and the crumbling mounting and everything, I'm fingers crossed. I'm hoping it's going to look pretty good. So I don't know. I'm going to stay the course on this one. I only need a few more shots to complete that sequence, and I feel like I am using it sparingly. I don't want to just, I say I don't want to create entire sequences with AI, which is exactly kind of what I'm doing with this. But the initial part of the dwarves outside the mountain, like that's all there. I'm sort of splicing it in sparingly because I think that's when you can mask AI. I think if you're doing a really, really complicated sequence, like these Star Wars videos, the Star Wars videos are great and a lot goes into it, but there is that uncanny valley effect to a lot of it, right? You watch it and you go, well, I know that I'm watching something that's AI. Whereas I think if you just pepper it in amongst actual footage from the film, it's gonna mask it as much as possible, and that's what I want to do. I don't want to take away from like anything that Peter Jackson did with that film, or all the people that worked really hard on it. I just need to nudge it in a direction, and to nudge it in a direction, occasionally I am going to have a couple of shots in there just to augment what already exists. Essentially, that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. So yeah. Let's see. Jake says scale of the fire, showing the fire hit the mountain would make the fire look huge. Yeah, and destructive, and that's exactly what happens in the book as well. So I think in the book, Bilbo runs out, meets up with the dwarves, and then Bilbo's getting really scared, and he's like, I've got a really bad feeling. We just need to get back inside the mountain now, because I'm scared shitless of the dragon. So they all run inside, and then it's just in the nick of time, because then Smaug breaks out and starts to destroy the mountain, which causes a landslide, a cave-in, and blocks their exit, essentially, and they're trapped in the mountain. The animated Hobbit makes it a little bit more action-packed, where Smaug flies out as the dwarves are still outside and starts to bombard the mountain, and the dwarves are like, shit, we need to get in, run, 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 go, 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 go. And that's been my blueprint, really. That's been my storyboard of what I've been working from as much as possible. So, yeah, I get more credits on the 27th. So 2 days' time, I get like 3,500 credits. It's 25 credits to generate one shot. And as I said, it's very hit and miss. You could burn through 3,500 credits to try and get one shot. And I have done that on a number of shots from that sequence you've just watched. So it's a slow process. I'm a perfectionist with it. If it doesn't look right, I'm going to keep generating it, even if I burn through all of my credits. So yeah, it's taking time. It's taking time. Bath Time says it's still got a long way to go before we can basically just get what we want. Still wildly impressive tech. Yeah, it is. And so it just seemed to happen one night, didn't it? I just remember going on Google, and then there was the AI assist at the top, and I was like, the fuck's that? And I thought it was like a pop-up or something. I was like, why is this on here? It's here to stay. It's not perfect, because sometimes that I don't know if you guys have had this as well. The AI prompt will give you clearly wrong information. It's something like you're really knowledgeable about, and it will say something you're like, well, I absolutely know that that's not a fact. But it does make it easier than sifting through pages and pages and pages on Google, doesn't it? So yeah, I think when AI can be used for that, for the sake of ease, or sifting through large amounts of information, that could be really, really useful. It's just when it's going to intrude on people's jobs and things like that, I think that's when it's going to get into a bit of a sticky situation. Carl says it's crazy to think where AI will be in 5 years. Well, let's just roll the clocks back a little bit, because me and JX have discussed this as well. When I did my first version of my Hobbit edit, when did I release that? That was December of, oh God, was it 2021? Probably actually was. It was probably about 4 years ago. If I could like go back then, like my future self now, go back then and say, in a few years' time, you're going to have softwares where you can clone a character's voice. So you haven't got to get, because I got like voice actors and stuff like that to play the parts. I got voice actors to do Thorin, Bilbo, Beorn dialogue. I had to find people. Like I went onto YouTube and typed in like Billy Connolly impressionists or whatever, and sent emails out to people and got them to send me audio files for it. I got one for Bard as well. Sorry. If I could just go back and say, yeah, there's going to be a website, 11 Labs, you can take a voice sample, like a 1 to 2 minute sample of a character's voice, and it will clone it. not perfectly, but pretty damn accurately. If you want to see an example of that, I mean, JX has got one on his channel of where he's taken Ian Holmes' voice and done a scene with like a narration over a sequence from the first Hobbit film, and it's fantastic. And that actually was the inspiration to try it out. And then if you look on my channel, I've redone the intro with a new voiceover of Ian Holm throughout the intro to the edit. And you can talk about whether it's right to do that. I think if you're doing it for, this isn't like for financial gain. This isn't like like $1 billion blockbuster or anything like that. This is just a fucking fan project that I'm doing. I'm kind of okay with it. And it sounds great. It sounds really good. And it's going to keep getting better. It's going to keep getting more and more expressive. And it's going to be really cool to use, I think. If I could go back and say there's entire softwares that in the click of your fingers, it can generate an AI generated song with lyrics of your choice, a vocal sample of your choice, and a style of your choice. And it will do it in a second. I was dicking around with that for a while as well. I was trying to get the Elvish Tra-la-la-lally song into my edit somewhere, but I picked the voice to be Enya to sort of match the Aneron and May It Be song from the first Lord of the Rings film. I thought it'd be really cool if he enters Rivendell and we get like a vague little hint to that kind of cheesy and campy Tra-la-la-lally song from the book. It made a song it sounded exactly like Enya singing it, and it really worked. I don't think I'm going to use it in my edit, though. It wasn't perfect, but it was very, very, very good. And now we can also create shots completely from whole cloth as well, which are getting to the point where they are looking really good. I'm going to kind of verbally badmouth Battle of the Five Armies a little bit here, and to some extent Desolation of Smaug, but certainly Battle of the Five Armies. With how CGI that film is, and how video game-like the actual film is, and you've got like CGI, Uncanny Valley, Billy Connolly, it's actually really easy to slip some AI stuff into that movie. If you want some like extended sequences or whatnot, or some additional scenes, it does kind of blend in with the aesthetic of that third Hobbit film a little bit because of how effects heavy it is. So yeah, you can kind of sneak it in there a little bit. Bathtime says, can someone edit Gandalf making a puff of smoke appear when Bilbo disappears? Because it's driven me mad for years. Once I've got this Hobbit project done, JX, tell him I've said like the projects that I want to do a Lord of the Rings project that's more book accurate as much as possible, and it just structure it in a way where it fits the timeline of the book a little bit better. And I do want to do some scenes like that. So yes, I'm going to try. I'm going to try to do it. And with AI, I think it's going to be very, very possible now. Yeah, because Gandalf does that so that people don't fucking freak out and panic. He's shocked by it, but he's really quick thinking, and he creates a puff of smoke to make it look like he was the one that disappeared Bilbo. So yeah, I think that could be cool to do, definitely. The one thing that I want to try and get in there, I think this is, if I can get Not at Home done for The Hobbit, and I can get a pretty okay sequence of Beorn fighting Bolg, the next step, there's maybe a few steps after actually, is to try and get Glorfindel in Fellowship in place of Arwen. If that could be done, oh. Let's make movies, ladies and gentlemen. Let's make movies. Let's see what else we've got here. Yeah, Bathtime says, don't worry, all them tech billionaires that upload their consciousness will eventually end up in some teenage girls' 4 playthrough. Oh no. Bathtime says, that and Frodo not giving his fuck off speech to the Nazgul at the Fords are 2 of my biggest annoyances outside of what they did to Denethor. You could probably do that Frodo thing now, in all honesty. Like, I've been trying with some of the voiceover stuff. You type in the script of what you want the character to say. I think you're limited at the moment to 8 seconds or 10 seconds, but most films of how they're cut, each shot is only a few seconds anyway, so it actually kind of works out pretty well. So yeah. Oh, maybe because he's passing into the shadow world, isn't he? He's becoming a wraith like them. So maybe when he says it, his eyes could go like fucking dead and white, like his eyes like roll to the back of his head and start speaking in this very commanding, terrifying tone. I don't know how I feel about that. I'm going to have to read that passage again in the book. I'm not sure I want Frodo to go full on demon Galadriel mode, like in place of a Dark Lord, you will have a queen. Especially when you're squaring up to the fucking ring wraiths, which are essentially death incarnate. So, but I think it could be done. At the moment, the mouth movements, they do look a little bit uncanny valley at this point. So if you got a character to speak, then the mouth is very exaggerated like this, and it doesn't look very natural. Sometimes it can. And you can give it prompts here and there. You can say character proudly declares something, or character murmurs or whispers something, in which case you might have a limited mouth movement. So it's essentially, what I'm saying is it's a lot of trial and error. It's a hell of a lot of trial and error at the moment with AI. So yeah. Carl says, do you think studios will step in and stop these fan edits? Personally, I hope not. I think Disney might. If any company's going to do it, I think it will be Disney. I think if the Star Wars things take off, and I actually haven't been tracking how many millions of views they've been getting. I do want to do a quick shout out to Everything in Middle Earth as well, who has done some AI videos on his channel of different stories from Tolkien's works. Really, really good videos, by the way, like the digital art in them and how it's been augmented with AI. It's really cool that he's getting these stories out in such a fun, unique visual way. And they've been getting some pretty damn good views, and I'm pretty sure the Star Wars ones have as well. So I think if it gets to the point where people start monetizing this shit, or if they are getting a lot of traction, that's when you'll have the studio stepping in and saying, no, we ain't gonna have any of this. It reminds me in very many ways of, and you know, we've got a lot of old timers here like myself, where you remember it, like when you had the days of Nostalgia Critic and Angry Video Game Nerd, and you had a lot of these people who probably inspired me to do chatting to the camera kind of stuff like this, in all honesty. And they would use footage from games or films in their videos, and YouTube had this really, well, it's bad now, but it was even worse back then, about copyright. And their channels would get strikes, and they'd be struck off, and they'd have to create their own websites and stuff like that. I feel like we're moving into a new age of that, and I think that AI is going to be the thing to do that. I think that they are going to start to crack down on it a little bit, and then you're going to have, you know, legalities and people getting sued, maybe. I hope it doesn't get to that, but I do think that is sort of like the next step. So let's get this fucking Hobbit and Lord of the Rings project finished as soon as we can. Yeah, let's just get it done, get it out there, and then it's, yeah, the rest is history. But I think you should just, you know, it's a sandbox, isn't it? Let people just have fun with this tech. Let them create the stories that they want to see. It's just a fucking fan project. JX says, well, if we're going to have strong commanding Frodo on the horse, would you also add the part on Mount Doom? Yeah, I think this is the slippery slope with AI, because once you can, and I think a lot of filmmakers do this with CGI. We've seen it with George Lucas, James Cameron, you know, a number of filmmakers, where once you get this tech, once you get this exciting new technology and tools and CGI or AI or whatever, man, you just want to use it all the time, don't you? It's like if you get a DIY tool, like you get a new sander or something, you know, if you're that way inclined with like DIY and things like that, if you get that new tool, that new gadget, whatever it happens to be, you find every fucking excuse to use that tool. And I feel like this is the same thing. So it is very new, it's very exciting, it's, oh, I wish that scene was in there, well, let's experiment with this, let's see if we can do it. And you can kind of do it. I think especially when you get to the Lord of the Rings, a film that was shot on film and has a very certain unique look to it, I don't know if AI will be able to capture that perfectly. I think it's more in the digital uncanny realm a little bit, so I think you'll lose a lot of that I don't know how to describe it, that quality to the film. You know, when you watch Lord of the Rings compared to the Hobbit trilogy, one shot on film and one shot on digital, it's very, very different. So I don't know. I mean, if it gets to that point and we can get something that looks good, I don't want to get something in there that just kind of half nods to that scene and it sticks out like a sore thumb just for the sake of doing it. If it doesn't look good, I don't want to put it in there. I'd be more inclined to do scenes where Sam approaches Cirith Ungol with the light of Eärendil and gets past the silent watchers outside. Fucking love that scene in the book. And Peter Jackson mentioned that he filmed that scene. They just removed it for pacing and time. But it exists. The statues are there in the film. The Return of the King video game has their eyes light up red and turn to face Sam as he moves his way through the gateway. So I would quite like to do something with that. I think that could be cool to do. But yeah, the possibilities are limitless. If it gets really good, the things that I would love to do for the Lord of the Rings is to replace Arwen with Glorfindel. Is to do the Silent Watchers scene. Possibly that scene where Frodo curses Gollum at the side of Mount Doom. There's lots of things you could do. Bath Tom would be like, I want to use AI to make Denethor a compelling character who's not cartoony. Let's see. JD Seaman says, hey dude, even though I've been dreaming of a visit to your native United Kingdom, specifically London, have you yourself ever thought about traveling overseas to other countries? What would they be? It's a very good question. We touched on this a little bit at the beginning of the stream, and Carl knows of my, I don't know, I'm a Hobbit. This is why I identify so much with the Hobbit and the character Bilbo Baggins. I like the comforts of home. I haven't traveled since it was a school trip to France and Belgium, I think it was. And that was probably when I was about 17 or 18. I turned 33 next year. So it's been a bit. It's been a while. And I feel like Old Man Brooks from Shawshank Redemption. You know, when he talks about getting institutionalized, I feel like I am a little bit. Now, my top destinations, to answer your question more thoroughly, New Zealand, top of the list. I've got a book down there somewhere about it's the New Zealand travel guide. It's a Lord of the Rings New Zealand travel guide, and it's got all of the coordinates and locations where they pretty much filmed every single scene. I'd love to do that, and if I'm going to do it, I want to do it properly. I want to do like a tour. I want to go to Edoras. I want to hike over the hills and the mountains if I can, as much as possible. I want to kayak, even though I can't swim. I need to learn how to swim first. I want to go kayaking. I'd love to do like a helicopter ride over the mountains. If I'm going to do it and I'm going to be there, I want to do it fucking properly. That's always going to top the list. If I go nowhere else in life, if I get one holiday destination while I'm on this planet, then I would love it to be New Zealand. Close second would be Iceland, a place that I have been to. I was very lucky to go there on a school trip when I was in year 9. I'm not sure what the equivalent of that is for international schools. It was high school, basically. 3rd year of high school. And I didn't appreciate it back then. Man, I was so dead set in my ways. I was very much Bilbo. I was complaining about the cold, and I was really fat as a kid, by the way. I should say that. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that on the stream. I probably have at some point. I was big. The beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where Indiana Jones runs away from the boulder, I was the boulder. Okay, so physically, it was so demanding for me. We were walking next to glaciers and trying to scale up scree slopes and things like that. And when I say I was proper big. I think my biggest would have been like when I was 18 years old, something like that. And I think I went cold turkey. I dieted. I exercised as much as possible. And a month and a half into the diet, I was 18.5 stone. I'm not sure what that is in pounds. So you tend to lose the most amount of weight at the beginning. So I was probably 20 stone as a conservative estimate, maybe a little bit more. So it was a struggle, but it was so good. And I got to see the Northern Lights. And as I say, like I walked past a glacier and we went to the Blue Lagoon. We saw some of the geysers there. But I didn't really appreciate it. So I'd love to properly go back and experience it again. It's wonderful. You got like all the old Norse links in there and everything like that. I'm 5'10" bath time, by the way. You just asked how tall I am. Yeah. I probably still wouldn't be here if I'd have continued the way I was going with food and how big I was. So yeah. Be thankful for small mercies, I guess. And then if I'm going to chuck a third destination in there, this is something that does feel a little bit more in the realm of possibility to do. And it's the bungee jump from GoldenEye, the one that's off the dam. Let me find the name of it real quick because I keep forgetting the name of it. It's called the GoldenEye bungee jump. Whereabouts is that? That's in Switzerland. That's in Switzerland. It looks so cool. And if you're going to do any bungee jump, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation. The Zaska Dam, is that how you say it? The Vezaska Dam. If you're going to do any bungee jump in life, it's got to be the one from fucking GoldenEye. It's great, and you got to T-pose. I've watched videos on the internet. I really want to do it. It looks like an absolute thrill. And as a movie fan, and I can say now as a James Bond fan, even though I was quite late to the game with James Bond and watching all of those films, that would be amazing. But I wouldn't want to do it alone. That's the thing. I think that's another reason that I don't travel. And anyone that solo travels, I've always said this, you have my utmost respect, because the level of confidence it takes to solo travel is absolutely paramount. It's fucking fantastic, people that can do that. I don't feel like I'm one of these people, and I think it's probably because I'm not well-traveled myself to suddenly just throw myself into a situation where I touch down an airport and it's like, what do I do now? I'd be panicking, like, how do I hire a car? Where do I go? Where's my nearest place to get food? What if I break down? How, where are the nearest places in case something happens? And okay, so I'm hiking at this place and then I've got to get this done by this time and then I've got to drive it. I'd be driving myself fucking mental. Overthinking, classic overthinking, but I know what I'm like and that's how I would be like. So, but I feel like it's pretty hard to fuck up a bungee jump, right? Well, I mean, other than the obvious, they don't clip you in, but it's all professional. The amount of people that do it on a daily basis. You go there, you could probably go for a weekend for something like that. If you know you're doing it, you know where it is, you get a hotel not far from there, travel there, bungee jump, spend a couple of days in Switzerland and fuck off back home. It's that's a lot more doable. And I don't think the flight to Switzerland's crazy either. That's probably only, what I don't even know, 2-3 hours maybe. I'm not even sure. Let's see. That was a very good question, though. So there's my very lengthy answer to that question. Carl says, always wondered what made you get into streaming, and do you remember how you felt on your first stream? Any lessons learned along the way? Just interested. That's a really good question, actually. So I don't know if do you guys remember this? This is for the old timers in the chat right here that have been with me during the times on the previous channel, which I'm not going to name. Do you remember Tom from that channel? So me and him went to uni together. Went to the same uni. We were on the same course. We're both major film fans, and we started doing reviews together. This was on a different channel. Predating the last channel that shall not be named. And we only did it for like half a year maybe. And we went to some of the big films. It was sort of like the TV pilot, I guess you could say, before my last channel, which I put like 7 or so years into. And it was really fun. I did go back and watch some of those videos, not like really recently. This was during the times on my other channel. I went back and watched some, and I sounded so fucking bored. So I feel like I'm a lot more comfortable on streams now. I hesitate to say the word animated because that sort of creates a sense of being disingenuous, and I'm not disingenuous. Like, if you meet me in real life, what you see is what you get. I'm exactly the same on stream now as I am, but there is an aspect to it where you've got to bring the energy to it. You got to keep it going. I can't just be sat here just like, yeah, I went to see a movie the other day, and you can't be talking like that. You've got to conduct yourself in a way and present, essentially. So I feel like I've got, well, hopefully you guys will say this, I feel like I've got better in that regard the more years that I've done it. And like, I'm not a very sociable person. I'm really not. Like, I'm introverted as fuck. If I go to like a house party or something like that, I am the person who will just sort of like stand against the wall and just kind of hang back and people watch a little bit. I am usually that person. But yeah, so initially when that camera light was on, it's like, oh God, we're live. You got to keep it moving. You got to keep talking. Whereas now it's second nature to me. It really is. I did have some moments where you go through some like nervous spells with it sometimes if you sort of fall off the routine of it and it's been a while since you've done it. Usually that's more for if I'm doing a collaboration with people that I haven't met before. I remember for the Lost quiz that I did, I was really, really nervous for that because the people who joined me on that, and that was a great collaboration. I loved doing that. It was really nice to do a Lost video. I'd had a little bit of a correspondence with them on Twitter, and then they were in the lobby and we were live. So I really, really didn't know them, genuinely. And I feel like, as after the intro, I'd sort of relaxed into a little bit. But there's still moments where I get nervous every now and then. But it's a lot better. So yeah, it's really just anything. Like the more you do it, like you just get more at ease with it, don't you? So yeah. And I've always loved film. I think that's mostly why I wanted to get into streaming. The amount of times I'd go and see a film with my friends, and they're not the most talkative of people. And I'd see it and I'd just instantly want to talk about it and just break the film down, what worked and what didn't. And the amount of people, I don't want to say the term normies, but they just go, yeah, I thought it was all right. And they just move on. And I'm like, no, motherfucker, no, we're talking about this. We're talking about cinematography, or whatever, the music and what worked and why was that scene in there and what was the meaning of that. I was always that person. I was always that really annoying fucking person. And I guess that just prompted me to have it as an outlet, really, to talk about film or TV or whatever really crosses my mind. As of recently, I know I haven't really been keeping up with as many of the big releases, and the long and short of it is that most films now are terrible, especially like the big blockbuster ones that come out at the cinema. And, with busy adult life and stuff like that, you really do have to set the time aside to go to the cinema and see a film, and it's a gamble. It could be fucking terrible. So that's why I feel like as of late, I've gone back to more of the retrospectives and watching like old catalogs of films that I've never watched before that I've always wanted to, and, cross off my watch list, and going back to some old classics. Like when the present is terrible, look to the past, look at what worked, look at what you enjoy, and, use the time wisely. So, and there's going to be more of that on the channel this year. We've got a lot of retrospectives planned. I guess I can announce this now then, if I'm going to go into some new stuff to expect on the channel. Me and Dale have already announced that we're doing a Pixar retrospective in February. It's going to be the 40th anniversary of that company, which we actually didn't intend. We did Disney, we did Don Bluth. We knew we wanted to do Studio Ghibli, and we found that the 40th anniversary was this year. So we started it on the exact date that, it was founded. Well, the exact date, not the actual date. That was back in the 80s. You know what I'm talking about? On the anniversary of it. And we knew we wanted to do Pixar. That was the next logical step. We've done Disney. We've done all of these big ones. The next one is Pixar. And we found out that the 40th anniversary is next year in February. So we've got that. And then I think I've actually timed this right. Fingers crossed. I thought I'd fucked up. I thought I'd missed out on... I thought I had like 1 year to do this, but I think I've got 2 years. So in March, it's the 98th Academy Awards. So we're 2 years off the centennial. I thought we were only 1 year off the centennial. So this has actually made me feel a little bit better, which means when the 100th Academy Awards lands, we'll have 100 movies to talk about. One a week. That's like just under 2 years, isn't it? So I've got time. So starting in March, I may as well announce this now while I've got people tuned in. I'm going to be starting a Best Picture winner retrospective, because there's so many old classics in that list, and probably some of them are going to be a bit artsy wankery, the Oscar fodder as they usually call them. But looking at some of the list, there are some major classics in there. Some Like It Hot, Dr. Zhivago, Lawrence of Arabia, Gone with the Wind, major films that I've never seen before that I've always wanted to cross off the list. So that's going to be nice doing that, and I think that will be a really cool retrospective. Almost a 2-year one, but me and Dale did it with the Disney films. There were 64 of them. So it's even more. It's a longer retrospective, but I would really like to do that. So it's going to be those 2 retrospectives, plus we've mentioned we're going to be doing more tier lists. I think that would be cool to do, and just seeing what works, really. I'd like to do more collaborations, I think, in 2026. So Bath Time, as I mentioned, we'll get some stuff off the ground. I've been in correspondence with Everything in Middle-earth as well. He's been going through a lot of personal stuff at the moment, which is why we haven't seen videos together, but he has reached out to me. We have chatted, and we are looking to do some more videos together. We'll be doing Rings of Power Season 3 whenever that comes out. I think it's 2027, but we will be keeping some videos going throughout 2026 when he feels ready to come back, and he'll be very welcomed onto the channel. It's some of the Everything in Middle-earth collaborations that I've done with the Rings of Power some of my favorite videos that I've done on the channel. He's a great guy. I feel like we work together really well, and yeah, it'll be a pleasure to do some more videos with him in the new year. Fingers crossed. This is a really good comparison, actually. Carl says AI reminds me of that mirror in Harry Potter that shows you exactly what you've always wanted. Yeah, the Mirror of Erised. Definitely, I think that's a very good comparison, and we'll see where AI goes, because it feels genuinely like every other week it's tweaked or improved upon in some way. So we'll see where it goes. This is a good question. JX says, well, good point, actually. JX says, big issue with intending to use these AI for bigger ideas. It's pretty easy to stagnate, full stop. Yeah, and people are just going to be constantly pushing the envelope with it, I think. And it probably is being used in major productions. We won't know, and they'll probably have better tech and more money behind it and things like that, but it's already being used, more than likely. There are some screenplays which feel like they're being written by AI at the moment with some of the recent blockbusters that have been coming out. Bath Time says, that's the last time you went abroad. Yep. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. Bath Time says, that's a chunky monkey, Chris. Yeah, well done for losing that. I remember distinctly the moment it clicked, because I'm a firm believer. And here you go. This is like, everyone has like fitness goals and whatever for 2026. If you're trying to shift a bit or whatever, not saying you're all chonkers out there, but if you are, it's got to click up here first. Something, I genuinely believe something's got to snap up here for you to lock in and go, I'm going to see this through. And that's what I was lacking for years and years and years. I've been big all my life. All my life. Even when I was in little school, I was the biggest. I remember my mom even got called in when I was in reception class because they asked her, like, what are you feeding him at home? It was really fucking bad. I don't think they'd even do that now, but this was like back in the 90s, right? They didn't give a fuck. So I remember walking up to my friend's house. He's in the neighboring village to me, and it's all uphill, really, really steep incline. Even now, like, if you're running it, it feels like you're in Rocky 4, where he's like, Drago, when you get to the top. And I was going up to his to chill for a bit, so I had my backpack on, I had my PS3, and this was the fat PS3 as well. Remember the original one that came out? That was so I had added weight, as if I needed any more weight. I was in a 4XL leather jacket as well, like proper big. And I remember starting this incline, and just I couldn't breathe. Like I could feel myself almost about to pass out. And as I was walking up to his village, there were people outside, doing stuff with the car or whatever. So there were people around, and I didn't want to stop and catch my breath because I felt very, very self-conscious. I was really, really self-conscious of everything. And I didn't want to stop and catch my breath because people would probably look and go, oh, look at that fat fuck who, can't even walk up a hill. So I carried on. I carried on all the way up to the top. And I remember just feeling so faint and drawn, and I was about to pass out. It genuinely felt like I was about to have a heart attack. And I remember knocking on my friend's door really rapid, and he got to the door. And before the greetings were even done, I just said, like, can I have some orange juice? And he said, God, are you all right? Because he said, like, the colour had just drained from me. And I was just walking up a fucking hill. A big hill, granted, but even still. And I think that was one of the first moments where I was like, I can't live like this. And I won't live like this. I won't live if this is going to be my fate, if this is going to be my future. So yeah, not long after that I started, and here we are. There's always progress to do. I'm working out in the gym. I do 4 days in the gym. I'm on like a upper lower split at the moment, just trying to progressively overload as much as you can. But I'm not throwing like crazy numbers or anything like that. As long as you stimulate the muscle and you enjoy doing it as well. Because I genuinely believe, like, once you lose it, that's it. It's a lifestyle change. It's got to be a lifestyle change for it to stick. And eventually, it's amazing how quickly you adapt. And then when you go back to those foods that you ate constantly, Frosted Flakes, crisps. I was a bugger. I was and am a bugger for crisps, actually, or potato chips, I guess, for our transatlantic cousins. Pizza. When you go back to those foods, you really taste like the salt in them, the fat in them, sugar in them, whatever it happens to be. It's almost like your taste buds become really, really heightened, and you just can't handle it. You can't handle it like you used to. Although I will say that I'm a slut for Pringles. So it's Christmas. It's fucking Christmas. I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to enjoy a tube of Pringles. I'm going to enjoy this probably now flat Guinness. But yeah, it's Christmas. Enjoy yourselves, right? Oh, that was a satisfying sound. That was like some ASMR shit. Did you hear that then? I bet I won't be able to do that again. JDC says, while we're on the subject of generative AI, have you heard the news of Disney actually having the nerve to invest $1 billion in open AI instead of in reopening their 2D animation department? Yeah, this is a great subject. I did hear about this. So when I mentioned earlier that Disney imposing all of these things, you know, like legalities and things, if people are making short films or AI stuff on their content, no, they're welcoming it. They're like opening the doors to it. It's like, well, we're not going to create any original shit. We're not going to create anything. So use AI to rehash what we've already done. You guys create stuff. I really want a redemption arc for Disney, but man, for well over a decade now, probably almost pushing 2 decades, they just really make me want to hate them. And I do hate them. You know, Disney is a joke now. When you hear like Disney's name attached to something, Disney is working on this next project, you're like, oh God, well, how are they going to fuck it up now? So it's a shame. It's a shame. It's all of these wonderful creators, you know, these absolute pioneers that now under new leadership are just absolutely desecrating the name and the legacy of you know, truly great individuals. Walt Disney is one of them. Tolkien, Christopher Tolkien, who was one of probably the best custodian you could ever hope to have in terms of honoring his father's legacy and giving us these stories, you know, compiling all these notes, editing them together. And now look at it. It's the grandson, isn't it? It's the grandson. Rotten, absolutely fucking rotten, and what he's doing with the Rings of Power and everything like that. Everything he's signing away. It breaks your damn heart. Like, we're never going to get that stock again. It's moved on. I hope we will. I hope that there's a pendulum swing at some point, but I think I'm going to be a very, very, very old man before that happens. Bath Time says, I like bungee jumps. I did skydiving once, and to be honest, it's wildly overrated. Here's the thing, and I guess you could extrapolate this to bungee jumps as well. With skydiving, I don't like the idea of what if that parachute doesn't open? What if the instructor fucks up? There's too many variables at play. Now, I know if you look at the statistics of it, the amount of skydives that happen on a daily basis from bona fide companies, the success rates, I get that, but there's always that percentage chance. And I guess you could say the same with bungee jumps as well, to be honest. So yeah, I feel like you just have to let all of that go. But I don't know how I feel about a skydive. I don't sort of have this burning, insatiable desire to do a skydive. But a bungee jump, I really want to do it just because of the James Bond link. And then when I watch GoldenEye, I'll be like, yeah, I did that. That's cool. For like a split second, for a split heart-stopping moment of my life, I got to be James Bond. You know, it'd be nice to have. Every guy wants that. Every guy wants that opportunity. Let's see. Any other comments? Yes, Bath Time. I thought that was the case. Yeah, you mentioned that Carl is the lore master. So yeah, we can leave it at that. We've got Ridge479, who says, didn't you only announce Pixar because your old channel started it? I haven't followed or checked my old channel at all, so no. I didn't even know they were doing it. Me and Dale have been doing animated retrospectives since 2023 for the 100th anniversary of Disney. We did all of the animated classics. From there, we moved on to Don Bluth. From there, we moved on to Studio Ghibli. The next logical step was Pixar. And it's the 40th anniversary next year, so the planets align, and it works out perfectly. So no, I haven't given them the time of day since everything happened. So I don't know what they're doing on the channel at the moment, but you know, best of luck to them. Hopefully they're doing they're getting the views and stuff. Yeah, very much separate ways. Yeah, JX, you were the fucking man for this. Yeah. JX says, I stopped drinking beer every day last year and lost about 40 to 50 pounds. Other lifestyle changes has led to another 20 drop. That's great, man. That's really, really well done. People forget how many carbs and sugars are in beer, or whatever, or ales, or whatever it happens to be. And I don't drink all the time. This is my first drink in, God, I can't even remember when. Months and months and months. I'm not a drinker. But it's, as I say, it's Christmas, and this will be my one drink. This will be one and done, and then I'm good. Everything in Middle Earth, he's here. Merry Christmas, mate. I really hope you have a good one. Thank you very much, man. Yeah, having a nice chill time. And yes, Waldrig for life. Love it. We need to get Waldrig back on the channel, man. We need to get you back at some point when you feel ready. As I say, the door is always open for you, man. Ridge says Disney are using AI to make memes, not films. AI is banned from all unions with strike clauses. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I did hear about it. I'm going to have to read more articles on it. Because I saw a few people talking about it, and I think they all jumped to the conclusion that, oh God, AI, like Disney's doing AI now. And yeah, I didn't really read all the ramifications to it, in all fairness. So yeah, we'll see what happens with it. But I mean, if Disney are integrating it, then other companies are just going to do the same to compete, and we have the snowball effect. There's only one way this goes. Jack says, I mean, they were both sort of feeding off of J.R.R. Tolkien's corpse. It was just classier when Christopher Tolkien did it. I don't know about that. I wouldn't call it feeding off. It seemed like just the intention behind it. Like, obviously he made money from the books. I'm not saying he didn't in the estate, but yeah, when you say like it was classier, it genuinely felt like out of anyone, he was the one who understood his father's work and was the true successor to that legacy. So there's no ill will at all towards Christopher Tolkien, and the amount of stories that we now have because of him, by sharing stuff like the Silmarillion, getting that published, the massively expansive history of Middle Earth and the Great Tales and whatnot. Ridge says, did you see Animal Farm trailer? It makes me nervy for Hunt for Gollum. Yeah, oh man. So I feel like this film has been in production limbo for years, because I remember checking what Andy Serkis was working on a number of years ago now, and it mentioned Animal Farm, and it was like the menagerie, or like the animation thing. I think this was when he was doing the Jungle Book movie, which itself wasn't very good either. I think that was kind of unfortunate timing, though, because Disney did their live-action Jungle Book around about the same time, didn't they? But it mentioned even back then that he wanted to work on Animal Farm with the menagerie, with his motion capture technology. Now, I was thinking of photorealistic animals and a very, the dark, serious take, which Animal Farm absolutely is. And then it went quiet, and I hadn't heard anything about it. And I think periodically I kept checking in to see what the status with it was. And I think it was earlier this year when me and Dale were looking at the list of films coming out the rest of this year. It had Animal Farm listed, Andy Serkis. I was like, oh, well, I haven't seen any trailers. I haven't heard anything about it. And I think the Critical Drinker did a video on it a couple of weeks ago. And I saw the film, and apparently, like, it's out. And my God. What, I mean, words fail me. If I can't even discuss it. I can't even verbalize what I feel about it. Like, watch Critical Drinker's video on it, or even just watch a trailer. That's all you need. You know exactly what you're getting in for. And it did make me sort of look at Andy Serkis's film catalog, because his films aren't good. It feels like, how some directors take a job just because they need a crust, they need to get their foot in the door, essentially. That's all well and good for like the first one or two projects, maybe. But I feel like he's done that for all of them. So I remember his first film was a film called Breathe, which was, I think it was Andrew Garfield, and it was this drama film about, I think it was the first person who contracted polio, I think, if I remember rightly. I did watch the film, but I only watched it once. And I remember it being fine. It was sort of like bang average, typical drama film. Wasn't bad, wasn't necessarily good, didn't stick out from the crowd, but I thought, okay, it's it's a fine first entry into his filmography. And then he's done stuff like he did that Jungle Book film, which I felt like was a huge swing and a miss. He did Venom 2. And now he's done Animal Farm. He may have done something else in that time as well. I know he's worked as second unit director, but in terms of being the director of something, if you look at that as a filmography, it's not that great. And yeah, Animal Farm is doing no favors for him, especially Hunt for Gollum. I don't know if this has been confirmed, but I've seen it, pretty much publicized now that Viggo Mortensen isn't coming back to reprise the role of Aragorn. At that point, with how prominent Aragorn is in the story of the Hunt for Gollum, what's the point of making it? Really, what's the point of making it? The only reason that this exists is because it feels like one more thrill on the way to the cemetery, which is a little bit morbid, but I mean, Ian McKellen isn't getting any younger. It really feels like this is the last time that they can get the entire band back together. I did a video sort of speculating on how I think they're going to handle the Hunt for Gollum movie and how it's going to be an opportunity. Really, it's a safe project because it happens during a time where they can get as many of the returning cast back. It's taking no chances. It's not doing anything crazy. It's not telling a story of the Middle-earth lore that's hugely removed from Lord of the Rings or an entire new cast of characters. It's so safe. And that was exemplified to me when I went to Comic-Con earlier this year for the Love of Fantasy, and the majority of the Lord of the Rings cast was there, and Ian McKellen announced that he said, like, I'm returning. And I was like, well, you kind of have to. He's the main one in the Hunt for Gollum. And Elijah Wood's returning. And I thought, why? why do we need Frodo to come back? And I thought, well, what are the ramifications of this? Well, you can have Lee Pace come back to play Thranduil. By extension, you can have Tario, Evangeline Lilly. You could have Orlando Bloom, Legolas. Whilst you've got Frodo in there, let's get Sean Astin, Billy Boyd, and Dominic Monaghan back. Let's get all the other hobbits in there. Why not? We could have Aragorn. We could have Elrond. We could have Arwen, maybe. We could go fucking nuts with how many people we can bring back. But now that Viggo says no, and I don't blame him. The guy's old. The guy's meant to be playing the same character that he did well over 25 years ago. Because I know it's the 25th anniversary of the film next year, but they started principal photography and shooting years before that. I think in the late 90s, wasn't it? Like 98, 99 or something. He ain't going to want to do it. And if he does do it, he's just going to have like a CGI Snapchat filter face, like they did in The Hobbit, and that looked really weird and overly shiny and uncanny valley. It'll be a stunt double doing most of the work, so I don't blame him for not wanting to do it. But if he's not coming back and you've got to recast Aragorn, this isn't a slight character. This isn't like a secondary character or anything like that. This is one of your main characters from The Lord of the Rings and of this film. So at this point, I'm like, why bother making the movie? Pure cash grab. Of course, I'll go and watch it. I'm part of the fucking problem, but I'll watch them all. I'll talk about them for better or worse, because even if it's bad, it needs a critique. People need to speak out against bad films, which is one of the reasons that I do this. Although to be fair, now I tend to avoid bad films. Like I can't be bothered even wasting the money, let alone the time on it. So yeah, it's not looking good for Hunt for Gollum. And have they delayed it? Did they push it back to... Well, it's 2027, is it? Is it December 2027? I know that Andy Serkis is there. Well, he was in New Zealand sort of doing principal photography. So, yeah. I don't know if the Aragorn matter complicates things, but how Warner Brothers are, they'll just be like, oh, well, we'll recast. It was like the Fantastic Beasts movie with Johnny Depp, where it was like, oh, well, we'll get someone else. We'll get someone else who can play that character. What's Mads Mikkelsen doing? Anyway, right, we are coming up to almost 2 hours, which is a lot longer than I thought I was going to be live, but I think I'm going to round it off here. So in terms of announcements on the channel then, let's just sort of go through what we're doing. Pixar will be starting in February. We've got the Oscar Best Picture winners starting in March. That's going to be a hell of a long retrospective, so stick with me on that. It's going to be a lot of old films, but it's going to be really satisfying when I get to that last one and I can officially say I've watched all of them. There's going to be more tier lists. I think probably before New Year's Eve, me and Dale are going to be doing a Studio Ghibli tier list, just as a little bit of an epilogue, just to properly cap off our retrospective that we've done on Studio Ghibli. And yeah, if you guys enjoy the tier lists and the rankings and things like that, that is something that will probably continue a lot more often, a lot more frequently into next year. What else? Collaborations. Well, bath time. We'll get something locked in. We'll get something sorted. JX, my friend, you'll be back on the channel. We'll be doing some stuff. There's probably going to be a Star Wars show we can talk about, but I know that we've also discussed some retrospectives as well, which we'll announce later on in the year. So stuff and things are happening. I'm not going anywhere. I love doing these streams. I love chatting with you guys. It's been a blast today. And yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you taking almost 2 hours out of your Christmas day to join me. It's yeah, you guys are the best. I couldn't wish for better viewers and friends on the channel. So yeah, thank you so much. Just finishing off the last few comments. Carl says, I actually gave up my Cineworld Unlimited card as films have been that bad recently. Dude, you're not kidding. I've been thinking about cancelling my Odeon Limitless. And I want to support Odeon. I want to support cinemas, but when these rescreenings come out of films, they're very few and far between. And I do think, should I just pay 20 quid to watch a film when it comes out instead of paying, what is it, like 20 quid every month when I could not go to the cinema for about 3 months, 3 or 4 months? You know, cost of living, things like that. I completely get it, man. I really do. And I think a lot of people are following suit as well. Ridge says, thank you for your time and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Ridge. Enjoy the rest of your evening, my friend. Yeah, JX says our friendship started on a stream like this. I remember reaching out to you on a video, and here we are. But yes, I'm going to round it off there. Merry Christmas to everyone. I'll be live again before the year's out, so probably the tier list is going to be the next video, or maybe if I can be bothered to see Avatar, Fire and Ash. I think that's what it's called, isn't it? If I go and see that, I'll do a review for you. So yeah, Merry Christmas to everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm going to go and get my Christmas dinner. Take care, everyone.